hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cheap Seats. My name is Mpho Mutlani. I've got the gang here, the gents, to talk about all things Premier League. It's been a wild week, but before we do anything else, remember the show is sponsored by Classic Shirts ZA. So please do go check them out. The little logo in the corner is so cool. Let's do the kid of the week. It's fun. So last week I put bad juju on Arsenal. So I decided to put bad juju on Manchester City. So if you're a Man City fan, you don't know this period. This was the year.
Yeah. Before you were around.
Audience of like 12-year-olds.
Yes. So this is the kit before the dynasty began. Oh, the buyout to Abu Dhabi Group or whatever they are, whatever they called. But this is the kit that actually, started it all. But yeah, Giovanni is there. Stephen Ireland played for this team. Micah Richards played for this team, which is weird. But yeah, if you want to go back to a time where Man City won,
Milano was the marquee signing that season for City.
Yes, I loved him so much. But yeah, then he went to City. They also had, who was it? Benjani and Darius Vassell.
And Joe.
Benjani went later. In that season, Benjani was still at Portsmouth. Because I remember because he scored against United for Portsmouth that season.
That was the first time City realized that they could actually beat Manchester United twice. But even though Manchester United lost twice to Man City.
The second time they beat us that season was at Old Trafford. It was like the 80th anniversary of the Munich air disaster, something like that. And both teams just wore plain retro kits, no badges, just plain red and plain blue. And they ruined the day for us. they beat us 1-0.
Yeah, it was a precursor to drama. But anyway, if you would like that kit, please go to Classic Shirts today. Interesting thing about that season, Kent, was that it was a season Arsenal sold Henry. It was a season that Arsenal actually came third in the league, having lost less games than Manchester United. So, yeah, Man United lost like 5, and yeah, we lost 3. But speaking about that, Arsenal drew like 11 games. And speaking about draws, the last 2 draws, the first topic of the day, guys, is: are Arsenal being complacent, or are they just losing control of this title race?
Arsenal are Spursing like only Spurs can.
I don't want to say it until the 38
Arsenal
game.
are Spursing this league so badly.
Well,
I honestly want you guys to win. I don't want City to win a treble. Come on, please do something. Pull your finger.
Let's listen to Kate. Obviously, Arsenal 4 points ahead. They play Southampton on Friday. We'll go to 7. And should they beat Manchester City, it goes to 10. Kent, how are you feeling? And are we losing control of the bus here? Are we following Spurs' footsteps here?
I think it's showing how this squad is young. The manager is experienced with his. I wouldn't say the last 2 games. I'd say this last game more so. The Liverpool game, even though we did give up a 2-0 lead, we got battered that second half, and we did well to come out with the points. So you have to give Liverpool their flowers. But this game against West Ham was very weird. After 10 minutes, I thought we should now put like foot on the neck, and I was looking at goal difference maybe, and see if we could reel in City in that sense. But we played about 25 minutes of football 2-0, and then I don't know if it's complacency or what, but I think the players just misunderstood what they needed to do and not slow down and give up intent. But they played like a team that had a 4 goal lead, and because of that, I think they silly mistakes started creeping in. Partey giving away the ball for Rice to then pass to Benrahma. Whether that was a pen or not, I guess that. He did make contact, even though he was already got his hands on the ball. So that when they scored and it was 2-1, the players didn't have a reaction. I felt the only chance again where the momentum could have swerved Arsenal's way was Saka's penalty, and he obviously missed his penalty. So Yeah, it's frustrating. I felt like this West Ham game was probably our second easiest fixture in this run-in, um, and it's just it should have been a
Wait,
guarantee.
second easiest. So you're thinking Chelsea's going to be tougher?
I think Chelsea. Well, I don't know. I had Nottingham Forest there, but I guess I don't know. Chelsea's weird. I just have.
I'm
got
more worried about
I've got
Southampton than
demons
Chelsea.
that just doesn't. I can't just like say it's an easy game.
So, what if you're Mikel? What do you do this week with the guys?
There's so many different theories. People saying, well, Arsenal fans were saying, yeah, there's bigger fish to fry when we got kicked out of Europa and this and that, and now we have rest days. Someone made an interesting point saying sometimes after losing a game, you want to get the next fixture there as fast as possible just to get that result out of your head. Now, going into Friday, Arsenal wouldn't have won a game in almost 3 weeks. So this will definitely be playing in their heads. But I think this is a fixture, Southampton at home, which will be the most. It'll be the most forgiving fixture, and you at home to kind of rectify the form that has been going on. You can always turn this. If I was Mikel, you can turn it into an urgency thing. The Arsenal were in a place where it was, well, if we lose to City, it's fine. We're still 2 points clear, and we could. If now we just have to not.
There's
lose.
no tomorrow.
There's no tomorrow, and I
You
think
need
it's
to create a siege mentality. It needs to be like in the
Yeah.
squad. It needs to be like Arsenal against the world.
Yes.
Mikel needs to like create this discourse that everybody's out to get you guys, and you've just got to keep winning games, and that's the only way to do it.
He needs to bring the speakers out again on the training pitch.
Yeah.
No, he just needs to play Gary Neville's comments on Monday Night Football for the entire year.
No, but
Oh,
Gary, I felt like when flip-flop, he's been the one who's been criticizing Arsenal, and now actually going to Arsenal's, kind of saying, no, I don't think it's been that bad of a season, where you've got Roy and I think it was Jimmy or someone like that just saying it's a failure. As an Arsenal fan, I'll be very disappointed seeing as to where we were. But yeah, I would like us to just. I don't think it's over. It's still in our hands, but I don't think. I just don't think Arsenal.
It's in your hands, but in City's hands too.
It's in City's hands.
It's definitely so.
City's form
No.
at the moment are just it's incredible.
No, if you win all your games, you'll win it, and if they win all their games, they'll win it. So
They
it all
win that,
comes down to who wins that game at the
Etihad.
Etihad, and who doesn't lose to stupid teams coming in, like just to try and make sure that you're not losing silly games.
Yeah, that's what I just think we can't write off Barclays and what has happened in the past with just this Prem. So people have not given any thought to will City maybe drop points, because that just suddenly puts another spanner in the ranks. It's all been, will Arsenal win all their games or will City win it?
Look,
so you can't rely, you can't think on that. But I'm hoping a Brighton away fixture, something like that, just City just become unstuck. But it doesn't seem like that at the moment. They just everything's clicking at the right time. Pep even brought off Haaland so that he didn't get Salah's record, just to keep him hungry for this Arsenal game, I think, because that's their next Premier League fixture.
Well, look, they've got Champions League to deal with.
Yeah.
FA Cup in the interim.
But I think
Dean,
Haaland will go above Salah in the most goals scored in a season.
Yeah.
Well, he's got like 8 games to go.
needs 8, yeah.
Yeah.
Dean, obviously you're a Spurs fan. You're the only group of supporters who don't want Arsenal to win. Everyone else shouldn't necessarily be supporting us in this title race.
Debatable, but yeah.
It's either for us. It's either having you a lot being absolutely unbearable for a year, being shameless, or it's someone breaking our record of being the only English side to do the treble, because they will win the Champions League, and they'll probably win the FA Cup too, because they'll beat us in the final. So that's the toss-up. So I'd rather have Yokes be shameless for a year than have someone win a treble.
I've also wanted.
Surely United fans are thinking like that. That's also, and it's also
it's our biggest. It's our biggest or second biggest like rival, and you don't want your biggest rival outdoing what you did, the history you made. No, I'd rather have Arsenal win this league.
Okay, Dean, I know you wouldn't rather have Arsenal win this league. How do you feel watching this team go through all of this?
Yeah, I think it was definitely an interesting weekend. And let's not talk about the Spurs game because that was interesting for other reasons. But I watched the City game
Spurs are
as
Spursing
well.
worse than Arsenal are Spursing.
Oh, I'm trying not to care, but it's hard. That City game against Leicester, like to Ken's point, Leicester could very easily have drawn that game with City in the last 10 minutes. Like Iheanacho came close, Maddison came close. There were a few chances, and it just, again, it comes down to like you do need a little bit of luck to win the league, and it does seem a little bit like the luck is swinging maybe towards City, especially over the last 2 weeks. And then you look, and then watching that Arsenal West Ham game, I was in the same thing. Like I only put the game on after like 19 minutes, saw it was 2-0. I just ran the Two Oceans half. I was like, come on, please, I'm already broken. I don't want to see Arsenal like run rampant. And then I do think it was one of Partey's worst games that I've seen him play, which again highlights that how pivotal he is to that team actually getting through the sort of midfield and passing it on over to like Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. But it's quite interesting. Jesus seems to be dropping quite deep and collecting the ball and then trying to distribute as well. I don't know if that's also something that McCall is doing, but yeah, I think it was a great weekend for me from Arsenal losing perspective, or not losing but drawing. But it's still 100% going to come down to when is it, the 27th or 28th of April? Like whoever wins that game is going to win the league.
Yeah,
that's as clear as day.
Yeah, we're gonna probably do a podcast after that. So yes,
should do a live podcast. And just
no. There's no way. Okay. And Wahid, you add in your comments, but I think we should move on to the next one because another team is struggling out here. They fired their manager. The caretaker coach is like losing 4 games in a row, 3 on the spin, having 1 and 4. We need to have a frank conversation about Chelsea or Frank himself. Is it ownership? Is it bad ownership? Can ownership be this bad? Because they have 31 players to pick from. Or was it? Yeah, because I look at him like this is a Frank problem. I don't think it's an ownership problem. I think Frank just can't find his best 11. Obviously the London team just got smacked. The only team to win in London was West Ham this weekend. But Chelsea, he dropped some sort of a very bad performance. And obviously they got knocked out by Real Madrid last night. Where's the problem at Chelsea? Is it the owners?
Yes, it's Chelsea are Man United 2014. That is what Chelsea are. They're a directionless club with a person overseeing the football side of things that has no idea what they're doing. They're cycling through managers, and they have absolutely bizarre signings at inflated wages and inflated prices. It really just, as a United fan, just smacks of Man United 2014, and they're going to get themselves into a situation where it's going to take them a long time to get out of that hole. And it takes a long time, believe me, to shift players on big wages that aren't good enough.
On 9 and 8-year contracts.
And we only dished out 5 and 6-year contracts. They're dishing out 8 and 9-year contracts. And I just think they're getting themselves into an absolute meltdown of situation, which may not be sustainable. It isn't going to be sustainable going forward. And the bad signings have created a disunity and disharmony in the dressing room. That's going to be very hard to solve. They've got an inflated, bloated squad that's going to be hard to resolve. It's just an absolute mess, and they need someone to take control of the footballing side of that club and say, well, this is how it needs to operate. This is how a serious club operates from a footballing perspective. And it just doesn't seem like they want to do that.
Yeah. Kent, I heard that they had a players-only meeting this week to try and, sort out whatever it is. But there's 31 players.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's a matter of Bowley seeming like he's learning on the job. He has come in here. He's kind of appeased the fans by going on Twitter Spaces, by spending all this money. Chelsea fans.
If only the Glazers went on a Twitter Space. If only.
Yeah, and I don't think Chelsea fans were too upset after January. I saw a lot of tweets saying they're having the most fun for a team in 10th, but now it must be pretty painful and hard. And with the interview I saw from Thiago Silva last night, just saying that there are a lot of players just unhappy that they're on the bench. Last night's bench had, I think, 5 players who you would think are automatic starters. They can't get game time. With no Champions League next season, they're gonna have to cut down on wages. I think that, it's part of their contracts. And before they buy, because they talk about this huge, big buyouts, or they have to revamp the squad, they have to sell about 10 players before players on loan even come back. Which with the likes of Lukaku, with Bakayoko, I think is still on their wage bill. Bashuai. So these players have to also get shifted. So it's Frank is Frank. He's supposed to be like this Chelsea legend, and I think he has good faith somewhat with the fans. But it was wishful thinking Frank was going to turn this all around. You still have the board has to take accountability, and they needed a stopgap so that Bruno wasn't taking them till the end of the season. And now they're looking at managers. I see it's Nagelsmann or it's going to be Poch. So that's interesting.
Okay, sorry, Dean, about that. I knew you wanted Poch. A return of the X. But is it a situation where now you want Chelsea to be? If Chelsea said we're going to play the youngsters, all these guys we brought in, all the oldies are just going to play 9-on-9 on the other field, and have the youngsters play. Would that be okay? Because there's a lot of Chelsea fans on Twitter going, play Noni Madueke. And I'm like, but dude, who is he? He's too young for the Premier League, right? But do you just want to be like, well, would it be best for them to be like, we're going young, these are the guys we're playing, and yeah, Thiago, bye, Kante, cheers, and we revamp like that?
I mean, it's a good point, but the problem with that Chelsea squad is half of the players that they've bought recently also just, they're not like old players. They also new faces, and they also just can't get into the team. So it's not even like you can say play the youth, because some of those guys are just like, I'm supposed to be in the prime of my career. I came here for a couple 100 million, like play me, and they're not getting played. So that's why I think the appointment of Frank was more, I think it was Bowley trying to buy a bit of goodwill with the supporters and say, well, look, we got rid of this guy, but he has someone that you kind of sort of love still. So, sort of buy him some time. The man still got absolutely no idea. Like you say, I don't think anyone thought he would have an idea of what to do with that squad. But I think there was a lot of people that came, or a lot of Chelsea supporters that thought like, maybe with Kante coming back, he might be able to click on a little bit and sort the midfield out.
Well, he's playing Kante on the right, like a right-sided midfielder. So what is?
But that's the thing, yeah. So that's the thing. Like even the people that are coming back, they're not playing where they're supposed to be. They're not doing what they're supposed to be. Thiago Silva had that interview the other day. I was sort of, basically saying the players need to take account, but it's just a shambles. And this Chelsea hole is getting bigger and bigger each week, basically, by the looks of it. And
you just don't know where it's going to come from either. Yeah. They haven't scored an open play goal, and I think in 5.
Well, that's because they keep on playing Kai Havertz as a striker.
Yeah, but who's
on the list? Who's on the list of nominees for the team of the year? Anybody explain that to me? Like, I just don't understand how Kai Havertz makes that list.
That guy's scoring the Champions League final.
All the things, like I wasn't even that upset about like some players who weren't included, but I looked at them like, what is happening? Why is Kai Havertz here?
Yeah, but that's the thing. You look, and I mean, it feels like we say the same thing about Chelsea every week, just different words. It's they bought the wrong players. The players that they bought were too expensive. They're going nowhere quickly, so they need a massive turnaround, and I don't see it happening. Like even with
let's ask a question here. Chelsea 2023 versus United, let's call it 2014, or United any time in the last 10 years. Who's in a worse situation?
I think Chelsea. They'll say they have young players, but yeah.
Chelsea, if Arsenal beat Southampton, Chelsea will be 40 points off the log leaders, which is
We had the youngest team in the Prem under Ole, so you could always say that that you have a really young team. We had the likes of Greenwood and all these little kids starting for us and winning games in Paris, but that time never really comes. The future is always just the future. You have to play for the present as well, because if you're only ever thinking about the future, it may never come.
But Wahid, if you look at what they've done this year, effectively, it might take them 5 years to fix. You have to have a summer where they get rid of everyone and buy everyone, and that's like getting rid of 10 players, getting 5 players in to fit your squad, rejigging everything, and then on top of that, you're already far behind everyone else. You know, Enzo looks like, I don't know, someone
he needs to get a
play at the World Cup. Mudryk, I'm so happy that they decided to buy him.
You guys dodged a bullet. You guys dodged a bullet. Although it may have worked at Arsenal.
He's raw. Mudryk's so raw, but he needs game time, and he's not going to get that in a 31 minutes.
He needs a coach. He just needs a coach.
Yeah, but like it's going to take years to and Chelsea fans think next season they'll be fine, and I'm like, no.
The problem though is with players like Mudryk and stuff, like you can't, like, it's very difficult to say he wouldn't have worked at Arsenal, because it's like looking at Di Maria coming to Man United and saying, but he should have gone elsewhere. It's when you're coming into a broken squad, it's very difficult to like work out in a broken squad. So Mudryk might actually have done fine at Arsenal. He might have been doing exactly what Trossard is doing, but he's gone into
bigger upside.
But he's gone into a shambles of a squad, a shambles of a management, and a shambles of a footballing structure, and he's struggling. So I don't think it's as easy as going, you dodged a bullet there, because he might have done exceedingly well at Arsenal. He might have become a £150 million player if he had gone to Arsenal. You can never predict how those things go. A lot of the time happened at Man United. You look at players like Pogba, and you think that if he had gone to a team better managed than Man United, he might not have been the player who he became. I'm no fan of Pogba, and I think there's blame on both sides. But the blame on Man United is that you took a player, you brought him into a broken squad, and you thought that he was going to fix everything. One player is never going to fix everything, unless it's Casemiro.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the issues with Chelsea is they've tried to find what United were doing. They're trying to find these patch jobs. Okay, just sign XYZ and we'll patch the defense, or just sign XYZ and we'll patch the attack, and that doesn't work like that. You got to build a squad.
Yeah, he was playing FIFA career mode. It seems like it was like a child got hold of a PlayStation. There wasn't strategy behind any of these decisions. It was basically what will be the hype signing and this and that.
Yeah, I do see Chelsea learning a lot of those players that they signed this year out next year. Moving on to another team in London. Another disappointing team in London, but they are still going to be playing in Europe next year, hopefully, depending. Might not be Champions League, but it'll be something. Have you guys punted the league, Dean?
I don't even know what we're doing anymore, to be honest. Like that Bournemouth game, Son looks like he can maybe play football a little bit again. So, like, for the first 10 minutes, we were on top, and it's Bournemouth at home. Like, I mean, give credit where it's due. Like, fine, I know they played well against you guys, and, you know, they're not as bad a team as what they
beat Liverpool.
Like, yeah, they're not terrible, right? But again, it's Bournemouth at home. And the way that team is falling apart, and you can see that there's now, I think Daniel Levy is starting to realize that the supporters now are very much like on the brink of absolute just letting rip, because Davinson Sanchez coming on and he just got booed from second one of walking onto that pitch, and he had to get subbed off. And I mean, he's a useless defender, and I don't want to see him play for Spurs, but he's to get booed from moment one and then to get subbed off. Like, you can see he was distraught. Obviously, it's not from a player's perspective, you don't want that to happen, but that just shows there's such a disconnect between everything that's happening. And it's the first time that's probably happened from what I can remember from a Spurs supporter's perspective. So Levy's got a very, very, very tough job on his hand. And
so what happens now?
Trying to manage this.
You've got like 7 games to go.
I mean, we got 7 games to go. The run-in is not massively difficult, but it's not easy. We could lose all 7.
I think Villa... Newcastle. It's
Wait,
we play Newcastle this week.
You play United.
So we play Newcastle this week at
And
St.
then
James,
United next,
so we'll
yeah.
lose. We then play United, which
You'll
I don't
win.
know. We'll probably draw. I don't know. But again, I think you can start seeing you can see Harry Kane he's tapped out. There's obviously the squad is injury riddled as well, with like Bentancur gone and things like that. But it's just getting worse and worse by the day. And I think from a coach perspective, my biggest thing is which coach is looking at this squad and team right now and going, yeah, I can turn it around. I can fix it. I don't think anyone can.
Nuno.
And I saw no, man. I saw to what Ken's saying, like I saw the Luis Enrique comments and saying like he came to London, but Chelsea haven't made him like a top thing. And that guy's not going to come to us. Like the squad's terrible at the moment. So to be honest, I kind of want to fast forward to like October and just see what's happened, because I think between now and then it's just going to be just letdown after letdown. So Richarlison's missing a goal again. All I want is for that poor guy to score a Premier League goal, and he can't even hit it.
Well, he told you.
Yeah,
he said it many times on the show.
I was laughed at on the show, and I was laughed at on our WhatsApp group. But you know what? You know what? If I kept as many receipts as you keep of my bad takes.
Look, it's not Lallana, but
yeah, exactly.
This is better.
Lallana was a fantasy pick, okay? Not going to be a brilliant player. I was like, it might be a good fantasy pick.
Which position would you rather be in, Spurs or Chelsea?
Oh, Spurs. 100%. Spurs have a spine that they can work with.
Even if Harry Kane leaves?
Yes, because Richarlison plays that role for... I think... Here's the thing with Richarlison. I don't think he's amazing, but I don't think he's awful. I think that he's probably not worth the money they paid for him. But he does do a good job for Brazil when he plays. And if Harry Kane were to leave, I think that it would give Richarlison a lot more responsibility as a number 9. I think he'd have to play as a number 9. And I think that would be okay. And I think that their spine would be fine. They need 1 or 2 defenders and maybe a goalkeeper in the summer. And their spine is fine. And they're not in the situation of 8-year contracts of an bloated squad. A good manager can get that squad doing well. They're not 10th, they're not 11th, they're 5th at the moment in a disaster of a season. So with better coaching, with 1 or 2 astute signings, they can be looking much better next season. Ivan Toney would be a great signing for actually any one of the top teams.
We're getting Watkins, don't worry.
Watkins, Toney, those guys would do well at any one of those clubs. Evan Ferguson.
They're gonna get Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Watch. They're gonna just go to Everton.
Evan Ferguson would be a really good signing.
Evan Ferguson would be a great signing.
He could sit. He could alternate with Richarlison and become the new Harry Kane. They're not that far away. Whereas if I look at Chelsea have a lot of expensive players, but not very good players. And I think that Chelsea, their problem is that they need a couple seasons to get rid of the bloat. It's like a runner who hasn't run for like 6 years and now has a bit of a tummy. That tummy takes a little bit of time to lose. So I think that's Chelsea's problem. And I think as coming from a United fan, I'll say that I think that shedding the fat is probably harder than buying new players. It's not hard to go into the market and buy players. It's to get rid of the players you don't want is not the easiest task in the world. I've seen that.
Unless you give them for free.
And
cancel everyone's contract.
But you see that with Chelsea, like Kent talks about Bakayoko and Batshuayi. Those are players you don't even realize are still on the books. It's like their version of Phil Jones. They're still there, like they're still earning a salary. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ross Barkley's still there in one way or another.
Is Danny Drinkwater still on their books? Can you
Okay. Let's move on to the last topic. So I was watching Manchester United this weekend and I was like, wait, what's going on with that squad? So many injuries, Wahid. What's going on?
Yeah, it's just an accumulation of fatigue. So actually, Ross Barkley's at Nice. He's no longer on Chelsea's books. I didn't realize that.
He's sitting on the bench for Aaron Ramsey.
At Nice? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. Pepe's at Nice. Ramsey's there. This is weird.
And
so Jim Ratcliffe owns them.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So he watches the Premier League, takes the team players, and yeah, maybe that's where you should send Harry Kane, Dean. Send him to Nice.
I saw at PSG what made him a priority signing, so we'll see how that goes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
With United, the accumulation of injuries, I think, is as a result of a couple of things. I think that Erik ten Hag has a really good 11, but he doesn't have a very good squad right now, and it's meant that he's had to play that 11 in the Carabao Cup, in the FA Cup, and in the Europa League, which isn't ideal for a team competing on four fronts. I think there's been times where he could probably hold up his hands, and I think that he didn't need to play a first team. Like I look at Nottingham Forest in the League Cup semi-final. Second leg, there was I thought very little reason to be playing all the big guns.
Yeah.
So I think that the squad is a bit thin, and the accumulation of games at this point is insane. I also don't think that squad was as fit as Erik ten Hag wanted at the start of the season, and it probably just needed a lot of time to get them up to the speed that he wanted in terms of their fitness levels. So I think there's accumulation of a bunch of things that have led to the injury crisis we're seeing now. I think that on one hand, it might have been avoidable, but on the other hand, I think that it was unavoidable. I think that this is literally just a cause, like from the amalgamation of games that we have, and playing 2 to 3 times a week for every week since the World Cup. I also think that the Queen's death didn't help us, because our games got cancelled, and now we've got to fit games into a very tight schedule. So, I mean,
That's a wild excuse.
This
That
is
is
Bro,
a
so-
the best
wild
Manchester
excuse.
United excuse I've ever
we
heard.
missed
The Queen dying.
we missed 2 games on the Queen's death, which is now being fit into this schedule on this side of the World Cup, when other teams didn't have that, along with Europa League games. So, like, I think that our Chelsea game can only be moved to the week, like the Thursday before the final game of the season. So, like, the way that we missed 2 games when everybody else didn't, and then having to be fitted into a condensed schedule after the World Cup with Europa League, Carabao Cup, and FA Cup is just causing a massive Man United like congestion in the scheduling.
Wow.
A funny fact though, City have had Phil Jones come back into training yesterday, and City have a fully fit squad, and they've played as much games as United. So
Phil Jones can't play for Man United. He's not registered in the Premier League squad.
sorry, Phil Foden. Sorry, Phil Foden's come back from injury, but I'm saying City have a fully fit squad, but Pep rotates, and it's the same thing with Arteta. Arteta also found a consistent 11 with a few changes here and there, but he should have had the faith to, for example, not play Saliba and Tomiyasu in that Sporting game, and now Saliba is being assessed day by day so that he could just get back for the City game, and Tomiyasu's out for the season. It's just left these holes in the squad, and that's not to mention like players like.
But that's
So
where Man United and Arsenal are behind City,
Yeah.
because City are looking to their bench and seeing Riyad Mahrez, and they're seeing Phil Foden, and they're seeing Julian Alvarez.
They have a full squad. They
Man
can
United looking to our bench, like on a general week. Man United looking to our bench, and you're looking at Facundo Pellistri, and there's quite a big difference between Riyad Mahrez
And we saw Zidane Iqbal the other day. So
yeah.
but yeah, it's the most Manchester United excuse you've ever given us, Wahid. It's
Okay.
Look at our successful season.
Yeah.
We are winning trophies. We are in everything. Oh yes, the Queen dying was also an inconvenience to us.
was.
Over and above
I
everything
will
else.
die on this hill. We missed 2 games because of the Queen's death.
Double down on it, Wahid.
No,
Double down.
it has to be fitted into a really, really tight schedule after the World Cup.
One last thing before we go to the others. What does that mean for your FA Cup this weekend, as well as your top 4 finish? Because I don't know if these guys are coming back soon.
I think the top 4 will be fine. I think Luke Shaw went back into training today. Tyrell Malacia, Marcus Rashford is also back in
Rashford is
training.
yeah.
So I think that for the top 4 run-in, we'll be fine. You don't want to touch the money, but I would be surprised if we dropped out of the top 4 based on like the way we play, the run of games we have, that sort of thing. I would
And
be
how
very
poorly
surprised
Spurs is playing.
and very, very disappointed if we dropped out of the top 4. What it means for the Europa League and the FA Cup, I don't know, because you could easily lose a game here and there due to an injury crisis.
Football
If you lose a game to Brighton, which is not out of the realms of possibility when you don't have a good defense on the field, is not unreasonable to think. However, having said that, our midfield is back to full strength, where we have Casemiro, Bruno, and Eriksen all playing. We have Sabitzer, who's come back into training today, who can sit on the bench. Fred is fine. So our midfield should be able to carry us through the season, because I think that we've had 17 games where we've had our first choice midfield of Eriksen, Casemiro, and Bruno. We've won 15 and drawn 2 of those. So we do really well when those guys are on the field. And I think that with Casemiro on the field, it does mask the deficiencies that we have when Maguire and Lindelof are paired. So I don't think it is a disaster, but we could lose a game here and there, as we saw against Sevilla last week. Not the best result.
I was going to ask what the stats are with Maguire and Lindelof when playing games and winning.
I said on a group the other day, like I think a lot is made of Maguire and Lindelof, but they're not the best. But we did come second. We did come second with them as a pair. And I think that with Casemiro in front of them, they could be competent, if not brilliant, for the run-in. So I don't think it's a disaster. I also do think we might see Lindelof paired with Luke Shaw as we go on the run towards for the latter part of the season.
So are you looking to shop Harry Maguire at the end of the season?
Yes. Yeah.
Spurs?
Harry Maguire is one of the players that
Yeah.
will have to leave. Harry Maguire will have to go. Eric Bailly will have to go. Alex Telles will go. But I think Harry Maguire will be one of the players we'd look to try and get some money for. So I think Man United might be looking for 25-30 million for Harry Maguire end of the season.
There's a club in the south of France that's seemingly taking all the washed English
I think
footballers.
I think you might find. I think you might be surprised at how many clubs in England might still want Harry Maguire.
Yeah, but at what?
I would
That's
be-
got West Ham all over it.
Yeah,
It has Spurs all over it.
there's a few clubs. There's a few clubs, not just Spurs, not just West Ham, who I reckon at 25-30 million, they'll be all over Maguire signing.
Yeah, especially the ones who survive relegation, because relegation is a very long list right now. It's like 8 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you
Okay.
look at Aston Villa, and you think that might be a place Harry Maguire could go. They're not scared to splash cash on players.
But they've
and
got
Harry
Tyron Mings.
Yeah, but they can play Mings, Maguire. I think Conce is the other centre back. Maguire
What's that?
and Mings play
Diego
together.
Carlos, wasn't it? Don't have that. He's been injured for most of the season.
But he's a defensive midfielder.
defensive midfielder. Yeah.
Douglas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, look, I don't get how you can buy Maguire when there's Ben Dunk or whatever his name is. Lewis Dunk. Yes, Ben Dunk's the
Lewis
cricketer.
Dunk.
Yeah. Okay, guys. It's going to be a very interesting weekend because you've got FA Cup, because Manchester United is so successful. They'll be playing the FA Cup matches, and then everyone else are going to be playing in the Premier League because that's what it is. But obviously, we're leading up to the big game, the game that probably much decides the season, which is Man City versus Arsenal at the Etihad. So Kent and I will be watching it with our eyes closed while Dean and his team decide to figure out what they want to do. But good luck.
I'm going to go
Wahid,
buy a
for the-
City shirt soon. I promise you. I'm just going to buy one and just keep it around and just hope. Just rub it
So
every now.
next season, when you tell us you're a City fan, we know where you came from.
Oof,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Like all other City fans. They just
Look,
come out of
they
nowhere
are
sometimes.
applying to increase their stadium capacity
Exactly.
for you. Yeah, that's what it is. But if you want to buy the shirt, you can go to Classic Shirts today, and they'll give you a deal.
Easy.
Outside of that, thanks, guys. And enjoy the weekend's football. Have a good one, and goodbye. And le sale, kakajiso.